What is good, agency owners? We have a crazy cool conversation today. Josh Crouch, founder of Relentless Digital, in just 10 months, his agency has added 170K in MRR. Coming off the back of some freaking painful experiences around losing some key roles, ops manager, customer experience manager, I think, if I have that title correctly. And today we're going to be talking about, the last 12 months with Relentless Digital, going from, low seven figures to mid seven figures and all the things that were needed to get there. So Josh, thanks for coming in. For everyone that doesn't know you, what's the elevator intro of you and Relentless Digital?
Yeah, well, I like to say that, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Woo!
But I like to say that, a lot of times agencies get told to niche down. I was too dumb to know any different. I already had my niche because I worked in the niche that I wanted to do marketing for. So I didn't have the agency experience, but I just happened to really know the problems of my ideal client and work for that ideal client. And then we've expanded it some since then. So that was my intro. I literally started by helping people in the trade, in the other contractors, because I saw an opportunity to start talking about Google business profiles. Literally, we were a one-trick pony for the entire first year where I worked full time. I just started giving tips to other people in a coaching group I was a part of, and it allowed me to get to do this full time. We've been doing this full time now for about 4 years after that point, and things have just been, I don't want to call it easy, but they've grown steadily. Like, we haven't had really any big downturns, except for we were literally, you mentioned, it's funny, it's only been a year. I can't believe it's only been a year when we lost. So we started to build up our leadership team because we were getting to that point. We're at 330K MRR, which is like 3.5, 4 million, something like that as a run rate. And we were gone at 2 events back to back in March. During the second week, our CX manager put in her notice. And then we got back. We were going to deal with that, talk to our operations manager who had been here for about a year and a half or so, 2 years. And she put in her notice. And we went from a leadership team of at least trying to get to 4 to 2, which is myself and my wife. And it was a very painful time to try to figure out what was next and what we needed to do. And that was our second time trying to hire a CX director level role, and didn't know what was missing or what we weren't doing right, but it felt like something we weren't doing right. So it's just one of those things that it was really painful when we started. And I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot how painful that was, because we've definitely fixed some things since that point.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love looking at the CRM in these calls because it's like, let's take you and the listener back to where you were when you started. I want to kind of recap that. So we meet. I actually didn't meet you directly. I remember when you signed up, because David at the time he called me. Or I think I might even listened in on a call at the pool. So I can't specifically remember. But you sign up, your first call with us is basically at the very last business day of April 2020. You sign up in May of 25, but you actually get going in June of 25, and your first full month is in July. So like in 10 months with us, you grow. But coming in, here's the recap I had. You mentioned to everyone, leadership team of 4. You have 2 people quit. You're now down to 2, and you're like, what the like? How the we were moving the right direction, but now this is so painful. I'm getting pulled back into the ops. Like, what do we need to do different? And the specific notes that you wrote or that we extrapolated: we need a better sales and marketing process. We need to hire a new customer experience director. We need to decrease churn, which, by the way, last year's churn rate a year ago, you were at 3 to 3.5. That was already best in class. If you're less than 5, you were best in class anyway. And the additional notes were, you lost those 2 roles. You've struggled to build out detailed 18-month customer journey with standard experience across the team. And you've tried other services. I'm not going to, let's just say, not 8-figure agency, wink, wink, hasn't been helpful because you're in a group of smaller businesses and like you need someone to relate to you that's like, I'm doing 4 million a year, how the hell do I get to 6 and then 10 and then so on and so forth. And we were like, yo, we have 8-figure COOs, you're in the right place. So that's where you were. Any other context worth sharing about like what was breaking at that time before we start like talking about what we built to start solving?
So I had transitioned out of sales. My wife had been doing sales. So we had a killer March, 50 or 52K MRR, something like that, like really good month of new sales. And then when I mentioned we went away, well, sales pipeline stopped too when we were gone because she couldn't take sales calls. We were at 2 different events, networking and presenting and all that kind of stuff. And so the sales pipeline stopped as well. So what we ultimately ended up doing is Brittany did sales for a few more months. One of the first things we wanted to do was also get her to run the CX department because she's a people person. She was a hairdresser for 10 years. She understands people. She can read people extremely well. That's why I thought she would be good at sales and brought her into the HVAC industry to do sales for me when I was running a company in the HVAC world. And but we also wanted to be able to take vacations and not have to rely on us or one of us doing sales calls and sales still coming in while we were gone or traveling. So that was a transition where sales really stopped, actually. So we talk about that growth. Sales, like we were adding maybe 2 clients a month for several months because she was managing the CX team and doing sales calls. And then also like the follow up with old prospects, just kind of something has to give, right? And that just happened to be the thing that gave. So we hired a salesperson later in 2024 who's been doing pretty well. We're still figuring out our metrics and numbers and stuff because that's a different transition. We never really tracked our sales numbers very well just because we were always growing. We always like, well, we're growing. So like, what does it matter?
It's how it goes. It's like,
and yeah,
honeypot's moving. So like, we don't need to optimize for it yet.
Yeah. But we hired an awesome gal who worked at a roofing marketing company that got acquired, didn't like the direction the new private equity company was taking it in, got a recommendation actually from the group. That's one reason I like 2 things. And this is for people that are listening. They're like, well, I already have a group or I already have a one-on-one consultant. I like both. I've always liked both.
Oh my God, we're doubling down on groups. I'm joining more. I'm joining EO. I'm joining YPO. I'm joining Baby Bathwater. The network is crazy. One of these groups, we're making like 40K a month just from being in the group. It's crazy. So like, there's so much value in that call out too.
Yeah. I mean, groups have always, honestly, most of the leads we get are from Facebook groups. To talk about groups, like we leverage groups, whether they're free groups like that or even coaching groups. But that the other group we're a part of, the group coaching, where it's smaller agencies, allowed us to find a really good director of operations.
That's great.
She has come in and done a lot of the stuff that our old operations manager was not doing as great of a job on, but I just didn't know any better. So like when it comes to SOPs, getting all that stuff systematized in a project management system, attached to tasks, like all the things.
So let's dive into that. Let's get specific for the listener. So like you join, we need 2 new roles. You end up hiring some people, but like when you came in, you're working with Mike. What were if you were to take me back to like June, July of last year, what are the initial things we start to build with you guys that eventually led to you making those hires that took the pain away, right? And allowed you to start growing again?
Well, I think the biggest thing was realizing that we needed a very process-oriented person to come in after having my first initial calls. So that's where we focused our effort. I was finding an operations person who they're really good at the things that Brittany and I are. Brittany and I are not process-oriented people. We know the importance of them, but we're not to be detailed and write them out and put them together and build out the massive plan to what you're building first, second, third, that sort of thing. It's just not our cup of tea. So we hired someone that was really good at it, and she's been phenomenal. Like she's been great. She's been here almost a year now, that she's really freed up a lot of time because a lot of team members just go to her now. And she's made sure, because we have operating system for every department at this point, like she's taught them all how to build SOPs for their department. So we have one person for every department now that's building those processes, documenting them, putting them in. So we use ClickUp, and that way every single person knows what those SOPs look like and how they can build them and how they can continue to move forward.
It's a really valuable thing. Spencer, for inside of my ecosystem, Spencer's that guy. He's the most organized operator. I think one of his superpowers is organization. And as I work with more operators in my portfolio, like I love to see what different operators bring to the table from the lens of like, what's your zone of genius that I could leverage to like, that we could leverage together to grow this. And in the portfolio game, I think it's the thing I actually enjoy most. It's like you're building a fantasy football team. It's like, all right, like I need a tight end, but like, man, my wide receivers are sick. Right. So I really enjoy that game. So you come in, we work with Mike, we map out what's needed. And one of the initial things is like, man, we need an operator because we're marketing and salespeople. Like we don't think like that. So you make that hire. What were some of the observations that Mike made of like things you didn't have? And then what did you start to build?
Well, I would say one thing that has really helped, we haven't built it for every department, but we're getting close, like was the standard work checklist. I didn't think it was going to go as well when we started rolling that out because it's one more thing to do at the end of the day. And someone's like, oh, they're going to watch and make sure I do some things. But we started with our account management team because that's one of the bigger departments we have of US team members. They love it. They literally love it. Like it helps them organize their thoughts in their day. And then it's really easy from a management perspective just to kind of see if there's any red flags or clients that hit the red zone that we need to do a deeper dive on. So we've actually started rolling it out. We have a department that's struggling a little bit right now. And that was like the first thing I was like, okay, we're going to start doing this for here. So you guys know what you're working on, what your problems are, and we can start fixing those. But the standard work checklist has been really great. But even before that, that was a little bit more like December, January moving forward. But before that was really worked on with our onboarding team and our our lead team. What the heck is his title? CSM team lead, I think is his title. Adam to start developing those processes for the customer journey, because the customer journey was one of those first things that we really wanted to dial in and enhance. Because, I mean, just because our retention rate or the churn rate was around 3%, I think it was actually we ended the year a little less than 3%. Keep a strength to strength, right? Because it's so much easier to grow when people don't leave.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get bigger, 3%, we're at 125 or 126 clients now.
It matters.
3% is still like, I'm still getting used to like, if 3 people off board, we're still less than 3%. Because I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Like because it's always retention first in my mind. Like where do we screw up? Did we do something wrong?
I couldn't agree more, right? If you never lose a customer and that customer stays and even grows with you, it's so much easier than to keep selling. Like it's better to be a retention machine than a sales machine. So we come in, immediate need to have an operator internally that could document, because you guys aren't operators, you're sales marketing people. We build the process workflow, and we have a hyper specialized focus on the customer success department. So we focus on the onboarding process, mapping the client journey, making it world-class. Were there any specific insights that when we did that, it was like, oh, we didn't have that, but I'm glad we added it?
For my team, yes. But what I liked most about it is I didn't have to get involved in a lot of that. It was the onboarding manager, our CSM team lead, and then it's gotten down to we're at the point where Mike is working with our marketing manager. Like they meet, they figure out the processes and the systems, and it's more like just present it to me what it is. So I don't have to do the work every single week.
Well, that's the insight, right? At 4 million, you shouldn't, right? And one of the things when I meet guys that are doing low, mid 7 figures, it's like, who is the owner of building this? Just give them, like, I think hiring experts to work with a very specific person on your team, like someone in your marketing department should have a CMO person they talk to, head of sales consultant. Like every department, in my opinion, if you just pair them with an expert that just says, do this, it's growth. And then also company development on steroids, because it's not DIY. It's like, this is the best thing. This is the most optimized thing. And it's growing. I think that's one of the specific call outs about this for you guys, because you were just saying, all right, you go talk to Mike, go build this thing. report back to me, you're just seeing the byproduct of it. You're not seeing, like, you're not doing the things that you and I don't like to do. I don't like to go to the ground floor and build. I just like to say, you go do this, you go do this. So I think it's a great call. So we come in, process, workflow, onboarding process, your onboarding manager and CS team execute and own it. We build out the standard checklist months later. What else were some of the things you saw your team building with us that started to move the needle throughout the first 6 months?
I would say just the fact that having them work one-on-one with somebody elevated them, where they felt like they had ownership of something, and it wasn't Josh telling them to do it, Brittany telling them to do it. It was the fact that they owned that process, and then they kind of had some skin in the game, some ownership, versus, hey, me coming up with an idea, hey, we got to build something out for this, can you go do that? And they actually worked with someone who they could get their questions answered, so they could build a really great process. Like, we're at this point right now because our marketing spend is only about 4.5% of revenue, which is really good.
That's killer
for a marketing agency. Like, it's really good. But I want to spend more money, but I don't know what to spend on, because our marketing attribution, again, just like the sales thing, our numbers, we've been growing, and it's like not a problem. But you get to a certain point now, you're like, I have to elevate, and like, I have to know these numbers, because in order for me to say Facebook ads are working, well, how well is it working? Is it working well? Because then if we put more dollars behind it, I have to know, is the ROI staying somewhat consistent? Is it dipping big time? Is there kind of like a ceiling moment where it's like, okay, we're up against the ceiling, this isn't going to work any further, we have to go diversify? And for me, marketing, that's like, I want to go spend more on trade shows, all this, but I don't know what's working. We're just kind of throwing stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like even a thing for today, we need a dashboard to track all that better today. And that's always the nuance. After the call, I'll sync you up with someone that builds that stuff.
Yeah, well, we're figuring out the back end stuff. Mike's helping us right now, like just the connecting dots right now. And then I think a dashboard thing would be awesome, because I would love to just check it every week and just know what's going on.
Yeah, we have one. We have a CFO that builds that just for. I call it the command center, because that's what we had at Amazon. I could just go in and see a massive dashboard of top to bottom, the book of business. I want to know everything. I don't want to talk to anyone because I'm actually not working, right? Like, yeah. So I really love this story. You're a different story than the typical person coming on this pod, because the typical person, like, is still, they're so in it. We're in it. You need to hire some people, but we were able to hire them, and then you delegate the building to them. We hired the operator that started building process. CS owned customer success, standard checklist for better organization for account management, the accountability and development for your team, which is probably one of the most interesting points, allowed them to be actually more empowered, more bought in, gave them more confidence in themselves professionally. So it's actually it's even probably helping with retention, because it's like, what? I'm getting paid well, I'm appreciated, I have ownership. Like, they're not going anywhere. Were there any other levers that you saw get pulled with us that capacity opened up and you're like, all right, let's go sell again, when Mike was deployed within your team over the last 10 months?
Well, I think there's just a confidence that comes with when you know that stuff's dialed in. Like, we always, and because retention is so important, we always hire before we need a CSM or account manager. Like, we have an account manager who's in training. She's about ready to start taking on some lower level clients, but we're already hiring for a senior level person for bigger accounts, because our other senior level people are, for the most part, capped out. They'll take more clients, but I don't want to push them past like a 25 to 30 threshold, because that's when we start running into problems with too many clients. We're not getting back to them fast enough. But because even our training from employee onboarding is dialed in, where it's like week 1 is this, week 2, it's dialed into the point where we know we can plug and play and get someone in the system, and within 8 weeks they start taking clients. And it just gives us, like, I actually had I think it was our web team. We had a point where we had 20 websites that were like in development, and they were like wanting to slow down a little bit. And I said, sorry guys, like, it's not going to happen, because we never know when things, the economic factors, whatever, stuff's just not going to grow. So for me, I've always been like, we'll figure it out as we go. And we added another developer, and we've alleviated some of that bottleneck. But I think everyone in the company knows that we're not going to stop. So we have to figure the problems out as we're flying the plane, because we can't stop. There's no stopping. I don't want to be, as soon as you start going downhill slide, even the team will start, like if they see offboardings and they're not seeing new clients come in, it's just not exciting for them either. They want to be a part of a winner, a company that's growing, a company that's winning awards. We got our first Inc. 5000 last year.
Oh, that's sick.
Like, I was real quick about that. Like, I knew I was on the list, but you never know how high until they like flash the number on the screen. You're like, okay, you're just sitting here waiting. You're like, okay, I'm thinking like maybe 1,500, 1,800, somewhere like in the middle. And we were like 217. It kind of blew my mind. I kind of sat there for like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
dude, dude, yeah, in 10 months, that's crazy. In 10 months, you guys added like 2 million and more than that, you added 2.2 million in ARR. Like that's, and then when even at 4 million, you're like double it. You're adding 50% of your business in 12 months. So that's for 2024. Like you guys, sounds like you guys should end up doing that again in terms of being on that list again.
That's the goal.
So that's a huge accomplishment. What number did you say you were?
217.
Damn, I'm writing that down. That's crazy. That's insane. So
the plaque is behind me. I've been fired. It's right down there. I've been fired from putting stuff on the walls. So
I love that. So we got the plaque. So you build all of this, and it's really instilling confidence in you to now. You guys have grown so much. You hire in advance. They have an onboarding and training process. It sounds like they got organization for like checklists that they're reporting to. I didn't hear anything about management, which is actually the final question I have. But like all of this building over the course of time, it increased the capacity for us to focus more on better like dialing in sales, and you guys do, and boom, like growth happens. The final piece I wanted to ask about before we kind of like, wrap it a little bit was management. Like, what did you see get built on management to just make sure we're hiring a lot of people and they're happy and they're not churning, they're getting better? Like, what did you see from a management perspective that got built?
I don't know if it's specific to what's built, but honestly, I've always looked to replace myself. So we've added a head of SEO, position we never had before. He was our senior CSM, got promoted to team lead. And honestly, he's grown to the point where he's doing most of the one-on-ones. He's starting to do annual reviews. At some point, he will probably replace Brittany in the CX director role once we feel like he's ready. But our leadership team, we run on EOS every Tuesday. For the longest time, it's only been whoever our operations person was, Brittany and myself. And we've started opening up that to our head of SEO, our head of websites, who just got a promotion to head of websites because she's done a phenomenal job building things, which has actually been kind of interesting, because when you're used to having like a really small grouping, like knowing all the intricate details of the things that are going on in the company, and you open it up a little bit, it's a little bit more vulnerable. Like you got to be really trusting of those people that.
Oh yeah, it's really important.
If there's something that needs to be in this room, it doesn't leave this room, especially if you're talking about team members and stuff like that. But it's been great. And some of that's been, for us, for hiring, last June, we brought in an applicant tracking system, which has been, I don't know how I lived without one in the past. Like,
yeah, it's a pipeline. It's the same process.
Being a remote company, we get 400 applicants in a week for our job. Like the account management, we get so many applicants, and to try to parse through those. And we were going to hire an HR manager about a year ago, and we ended up bringing this app. It was actually someone I had on our podcast, and I brought it in, and it's been phenomenal. Like now hiring is like so easy. And now we've actually started, like we're hiring an SEO strategist. I'm not going to be involved in that at all. My head of SEO, my ops manager, and then Brittany, because she's more of the culture person in the company. And I'm not going to, we brought on an onboarding a second onboarding person. I didn't even meet him until he'd been at the company for a month, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's odd. It's like, oh, hey, Roger, how you doing?
You're getting bigger. And let's kind of sunset all of this, right? With today you're now removed from most things, right? You're able to pursue some personal stuff, like you're really leaning into your personal health this year. What do you think, if we were to summarize? We know the revenue impact. Like, what does your time look like now that you've done this for really focused for 10 months, almost a year? Like a year ago, you had the intent, all right, shit's breaking, I need to fix it. Now it's now a year later where shit's working. But what's been maybe not the impact on you, but the impact on your time of what's your time look like differently now after doing that for about 10 months?
That's a great question. Some of that I'm still figuring out, because we have been able to go to the gym more and train more, and we've even done just some nice longer weekends and stuff that we probably pushed off for too many years, to just Brittany and I to go. Like this weekend for Easter, we're going to take the kids and we're going to go somewhere and just take a couple days off. But I feel like it's a lot easier for us to just do that, because the world's not falling, the sky's not falling if we're not here. 2 years ago, I remember the first event I went to, trade show, and I was going to be gone for like a week, and ChatGPT was out at this time. I was kind of frustrated with the team, and I put together a message that probably wouldn't have been received real well. It was a little negative in hindsight, and I'm glad I had the hindsight or the foresight to go into ChatGPT and be like, hey, can you give this a positive spin? Because I was like, you guys, I'm not available. You need to figure this shit out.
Dude, I love doing that. I love writing in the ChatGPT when I'm pissed.
Spin it for me, please.
Hey, I'm really mad right now, but I need this to be changed. I literally did this to my mother. Like I sent her an email. I was so mad at her because she's been doing like weird shit, mother and my wife. But I was pissed, and I said to ChatGPT, hey, like I'm really mad, and my mom won't be able to receive this well. I need you to edit this and dial it down so she could actually accept what I am about to say to her. And it did it in such a way that I could have never written that as well. So yeah, I love leveraging it for that. That's a great call out. It's a great management call out.
Yeah, but I would say, honestly, the biggest thing I've done since probably the last 5 or 6 months is we have a webinar every single month. I am like mass producing content. I'm just focused on just helping more people and just getting them in our ecosystem. We get a lot of feedback that our content's super helpful. The messages that come in from that, and even if people can't work with us yet because they're not big enough, or they're not the right revenue size or the right fit, we have a pipeline of people that want to work with us at some point when they're ready. And that type of stuff is like, just seeing that stuff is, I probably need to reflect on that more, because I get messages all the time, and it almost becomes like,
get numb to it a little bit.
You hear it so often, you're just like numb, but you don't realize the impact you're making for other people.
That's why I do this, right? The podcast I was recording when you came in is like, I started recording it because someone came on and was like, hey, I listened to the pod. Hugh, shout out to you. I listened to the pod for a full year. I'm like, oh, you know what we're about. Like, and it's always an interesting thing when someone's like, yeah, man, like I read all of your stuff, changed my life. I'm like, what a,
it's hard to like, how do you take that?
Because when you write, and it goes into an abyss. Yeah. It goes into an abyss. And you're like, the brain doesn't work in an easy way to like make that like concrete and digestible, because you don't feel it, right? So it's just like a logical, cool, let's keep doing it. So dude, that's an amazing recap of you've taken more time off, you've enjoyed longer weekends, you're investing more in your health, and then business wise, the reason this is the big one, revenue has really grown a lot too, because you've had time to go build brand. You've been producing content, it's building a bigger pipeline, you're nurturing leads longer, they're coming in with more trust. So like closing rates probably super high. You're running a weekly webinar, like you are running a trust and content and brand driven sales approach, which is obviously like, yeah, no wonder why you guys are growing so much, because even if you're retargeting on value, building content on value, ads to probably lead magnets, all value. And that's been my whole game from day one. So dude, this is an amazing conversation. Like what a crazy 10 months of growth, like massive congratulations. And if you're open to it, like we were talking before the pod, like what that's like on the back end, I think that would even be a a really interesting follow up. Like, I'm making a lot of money. What, like, what now? What now?
I actually probably would like to do something like that because it is
People need to know. People need to know when you make a lot of money. The now what? No, like most people don't plan for the now what, and that's actually huge. So like, we were speaking about it, but just in the flow of this conversation, let's chat it. But dude, if people want to get to know you, find you, where can they find Josh or Relentless Digital?
Probably the best place is either Facebook, probably Facebook, LinkedIn. I have a ghostwriter that writes my stuff, so I probably won't see if you comment or whatever, because LinkedIn, our prospects don't really hang out on LinkedIn. I just know it's still important for networking and stuff. Facebook is probably where I hang out the most. So that'd be the best place to reach out.
Cool. Guys, check out Josh Crouch on Facebook. And then if someone's listening and they're considering they need help with ops, they need help with people, process, anything operationally, what would you recommend to them about 8F?
Honestly, I think you can never have enough coaches. Sometimes I guess you can't have enough coaches, but for me, I have 5 coaches in my life. I have a group coach, so because I like networking with other people because they might have solved something, even if they're small, they might have solved something that I just didn't foresee. But I like the fact that we get one-on-one time every week, and it builds the team, builds the things. So it's not you have to be a part of every meeting. You set the structure. Obviously, you're a part of certain things and you get presented to it, but your team builds it. And 8F is able to work with those leaders on your team, so that way you don't have to invest all your time in doing it.
Yeah, so it's an amazing point of leverage.
Go build your business. Go build your empire, and figure out what that means for you. Unbelievable.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations. And guys, if you want to see what Josh is building, one of Inc. 5000's top businesses of 2024 and 2025, you need to go check him out. It's worth the look. Thank you for coming. Cheers.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it.